Howdy folks, Max Mogren reporting for the Sheep Eater from beautiful Jackson Hole, Wyoming. It's December 20th, 2014, and today we're taking a good hard critical look at Rolling Stone magazine. This is their latest issue, December 18th, 2014 to January 1st, 2015. I personally used to think Rolling Stone was a pretty cool magazine, but as I became more informed and educated and more critical of the mainstream media, I realized that Rolling Stone was actually a very effective piece of propaganda being used by the techno-fascist corporatists. That's quite a mouthful, but basically fascism is a merger, as Mussolini put it, fascism is a merger of state and corporate power. We live in a world where the government and the banks, the corporations, the big oil companies are all in bed with each other. Hollywood's part of that too. And Rolling Stone promotes, more than anything, it promotes mainstream entertainment, right? If you have a hard time believing that Rolling Stone is blatant corporatist, techno-fascist propaganda, you just have to look at what they're trying to sell you. This magazine, 96 pages total, 42 and a half pages, almost half of the magazine is advertising. Of those ads, they're not selling you stuff that's good for you. It'll make you more informed. 5 pages, 5 full-page ads for booze, 5 for TV shows. 5 pages of tech, selling cell phones, 3 tobacco and e-cigs, 2.5 pages of jewelry ads, 2.5 pages of clothing ads, 2.5 pages of junk food ads, 2 pages promoting pharmaceutical drugs, 2 pages cars, 2 pages cologne, 2 pages for music. A music magazine only has 2 pages of ads actually promoting music, a Beatles re-release and a Tom Petty book. 2 pages promoting shitty concerts. Lady Gaga and Tony Bennett live in Vegas. Count me out. Page and a half promoting vaporizers. And a page promoting, of course, Starbucks. So there's what Rolling Stone's trying to sell you. Booze, tobacco, TV shows, cell phones, smartphones, which are self-monitoring and analyzing reporting technologies, meaning it's a tracking device. And a bunch of crap. Now, in addition to the 42 and a half pages of blatant corporate advertisements trying to sell you crap, in this particular edition of Rolling Stone, we've got 13 pages of mainstream music rankings and reviews, 4 pages of mainstream TV and movie ranking and reviews, and then, so right there we've got another 17 pages where it's just blatantly saying, hey, buy this album, buy that album. Again, it's all mainstream. Rolling Stone's album of the year, U2. Rolling Stone's signal of the year, some Beyonce song. And their TV shows, they're promoting, the big video, the big movie they're promoting is like the Bradley Cooper movie, American Sniper. They're promoting these real propagandistic, at worst, and distracting and meaningless at best, entertainments, be it music, TV, or movies. In addition to the 77 pages, in addition to all that, there are 6 pages that's basically a promotion for the recent Seth Rogen movie, The Interview, that's causing all the controversy. 6 pages promoting Chris Rock's new movie. 4 pages promoting Charlie XCX's upcoming album, Sucker. And 2 pages promoting Aretha Franklin's new album of cover songs. So basically, when you add all that up, 77 and a half of the 96 pages of Rolling Stone is promoting mainstream products, be it booze, TV shows, tobacco, or Seth Rogen's new movie. So there you have it, 96 pages, 18 and a half pages can be classified that aren't blatantly pushing some sort of product, right? Of those 18 and a half pages remaining, I got some of it right here. You got the intro here. This is actually a pretty good summary of Rolling Stone. All the news that fits. Well, I would argue that it's the news that fits with the propaganda agenda set by Hollywood and DC. So right here on the cover page, Chris Rock is a dyed-in-the-wool Obama supporter. I think he's been called on record comparing Obama with his daddy, saying Obama's our daddy, something like that. But here we go, Chris Rock's stoking up the race war right from the get-go here. White entertainers don't have a responsibility to a community. Nobody's telling them to keep it real. So Chris Rock kind of race baiting. That's a theme throughout the interview with him in the magazine. This is a good ad. If you're struggling with bipolar depression, Latuda may help. Rolling Stone trying to sell you happy pills. But be aware, increased risk of death in elderly people who are confused, have memory loss, or have lost touch with reality. Increased risk of suicidal thoughts or actions, depression and other serious mental illnesses, and suicidal thoughts. High fat levels in your blood, increased cholesterol and triglycerols, increase in weight gain, increase in prolactin, low white blood cell count, killing your immune system, decreased blood pressure, seizures, difficulty swallowing. The most common side effects include sleepiness or drowsiness, restlessness or feeling like you need to move around, difficulty moving, slow movements, muscle stiffness, tremors, nausea. So here you go, kids. Get some Latuda if you're not feeling too happy, right? Classic. You don't need that shit. It's not good for you. This is kind of funny. The Beatles in mono. You know, this is one of the 2 pages that's actually an ad for music. And they're trying to sell you a box set of Beatles albums in mono when you can go online and download any album you want for free these days. But what's really funny, it's like, ooh, it's in mono. You know, there's a little button on your stereo mono, or I'm sure you can adjust it in your computer too. So if you really want to listen to the Beatles in mono, you don't have to spend $80 on a box set. You can just toggle into mono. Okay? Some of the actual content. There's basically 2 real articles in here. One, the secret deal to save the planet. Obama meets with the Chinese president to save the planet from CO2. And then Afghanistan, how the drug lords won the war. So both of these are pretty funny. The Seth Rogen article is pretty funny too. Let's look at that real quick. Rogen here. Here's a choice quote from Seth Rogen. I remember America invaded Iraq during that time, and I smoked a lot of weed and sat on my ass and watched the news for like 5 weeks straight, he says. So there's Seth Rogen. What's he say? You know, this whole movie is frankly an outrage. I'm glad it's been pulled from theaters. Right now they're blaming North Korea for the cyber attack, but I've seen no real evidence that it was North Korea. To me, my gut's saying that this whole interview thing, the whole hack of Sony, is potentially a false flag attack, or regardless of who did it, it's going to be used to justify more costly and draconian cybersecurity measures, meaning we get spied on more, and more money is funneled down the rat hole of security. Okay? Rogan and Goldberg first started kicking around the idea for the interview a few years ago, around the time despots like Saddam and Gaddafi were getting offed. They started joking about what might happen if a journalist got to interview one and was recruited to take him out. Blah, blah, blah. So, if you've done your homework, you know that Saddam was put into power by the United States. The weapons of mass destruction that he did have were given to him by the world's largest arms dealer, the United States government, his ally that he turned away from, which is why they took him out. Gaddafi, if you looked into his history, you know that Libya under Gaddafi was a pretty awesome place. After it was liberated with NATO airstrikes and the assassination of Gaddafi, the country's being bombed back into the Stone Age, basically. But anyway, I don't even want to touch the interview. Frankly, it's disgusting. You know, I'm all for free speech, but a movie where the plot is that the CIA is recruiting people to assassinate the leader of a country, you know, it's blurring the line between fact and fiction, and it's pure propaganda, you know. I don't know what it's like in North Korea because I've never been there, and I don't really trust the mainstream media's perceptions, you know, the story they tell us about North Korea. I don't know if it's that bad there, but they sure make it out like it's the evil empire, while the United States is invading countries all over the world and killing people. You know, blowing people up with drones. When was the last time North Korea blew someone up with a drone or invaded another country? It was a while ago. Rolling Stone interviewed Chris Rock, you know, making it all about race and promoting his new movie. So it's classic. You know, these magazines, they blur the line between advertising and content. It's a common strategy. Most of the articles in here do just that. Let's get into this one, the secret deal to save the planet. You can see I really dug into this one. This is basically pure climate change agenda propaganda. Anyone who's watched my other videos or has studied the climate change issue knows that there is a serious political agenda behind this supposed environmentalist movement. And this whole article just pushes that agenda, blaming CO2 entirely for our wacky weather, completely overlooking intentional weather modification programs and weather weapons that have been in use for decades. Instead, blaming it all on CO2 and proposing more regulations, more taxes, more governmental control as a solution, instead of acknowledging the existence of suppressed energy technologies that could have rendered fossil fuels obsolete a century ago. But another thing that's disturbing right here in the intro, blah, blah, blah. In the works for nearly a year, the agreement unfolded in a series of secret meetings in the United States and China and was carried out with the brinksmanship and bravado of a Vegas poker game. The agreement comes at a time when awareness of the risks of climate change has never been higher, blah, blah, blah. So anyway, it rewards, or it plays it up like Obama. What it calls it, the historic climate deal may be one of the most significant accomplishments of his presidency, saying Obama's doing a good thing by meeting behind closed doors and doing this stuff in secret. Now, this whole agreement doesn't really have any teeth. If you really read the fine print, there's no... They set targets, okay? Targets for emissions reductions. There's no legally binding here. And China's emissions caps won't go into place until 2030. The U.S. is trying to drop emissions by 26 to 28% by 2025. Well, Obama's going to be long gone by 2025, and I doubt that the next president is going to uphold his gentleman's agreement with the Chinese president on the climate issue. You know, if the United States government was really serious about solving climate change, why are they pushing through the Keystone XL pipeline? Why is fracking okay, and the fracking companies don't even need to release the information on what chemicals they're pumping into our drinking water? The answer for that is because the U.S. government is not really serious about climate change. They just want the revenue from carbon taxes. They want to keep us on fossil fuels, and they want to profit from our fossil fuel consumption. They also want to regulate and control who gets to burn fossil fuels and at what cost. This has the added bonus for the techno-fascist corporatists of allowing them to control the development of less developed countries and regions. They can basically charge you for increasing your economic productivity. So just more profit, more control. Speaking of profit and control, the United States invaded Afghanistan 13 years ago. And now we have Afghanistan, the making of a narco state. After 13 years of war, we haven't defeated the Taliban, but we have managed to create a nation ruled by drug lords, says Matthew Akins. What's funny about this article, you think, ooh, that's kind of cool, but it's cool that they're covering this topic, but they make it out like the United States got duped by the Afghan government and that we didn't actually go into Afghanistan to profit from the opium trade. What's it say? Karzai was playing us like a fiddle, wrote Schweik, a U.S. counter-narcotics official. So you look at this article, it's pretty long, and it's informative in a way, but only if you're already aware of the fact that the United States, in addition to being the world's largest gun runner, the world's largest arms dealer, is also the world's largest drug dealer. They've been doing it for decades. Look at the history, the Iran-Contra scandal in the 80s. My former boss, Mike Rupert, was a LAPD narcotics detective that blew the whistle on the US, the CIA, smuggling cocaine into the country in the late 1970s. Now we have an explosion of heroin use in the United States. At the same time, we're occupying Afghanistan, the country that produces 90% of the world's heroin. And it's funny, after Afghan farmers earn less than 1% of the value of the global opium economy, despite producing 90% of the world's opium. Okay? They talk about how they get, like, this guy pulls out a huge bag of opium and he can sell it for $600. And this guy, the reporter, is there seeing this opium, and this bag of opium that this Afghan farmer can sell for $600 has a street value in London of 150 grand. Okay? So that's a 25,000% markup. Blah, blah, blah. Someone between him and the junkie on the street is clearly making a killing. The people making a killing are the people allowing this to happen, the politicians, the military, the big drug dealers in the US, the UK, all over the world. But the important thing to note is the United States is controlling Afghanistan. We put the Karzai administration into power. We set all this up. And it's funny, they mention in here that back in 2000, the Taliban, here we go, in the summer of 2000, shortly before the United States invaded, the country's fundamentalist leaders announced a total ban on opium cultivation. It remains a mystery why the Taliban's reclusive leader made the call, but the Taliban enforced his decision with their customary harshness. Okay? The following spring, opium production fell from an estimated 3,276 tons in 2000 to 185 tons in 2001. So the Taliban cut opium production in Afghanistan by a considerable amount. They banned it. Well, what happened in 2001? The United States invaded Afghanistan. And now, these were the first in a series of decisions that helped revive the Afghan opium economy in a drastically expanded form. Within 6 months of the U.S. invasion, the warlords we backed during the Russian wars, were running the opium trade, and the spring of 2002 saw a bumper harvest of 3,400 tons. Okay? So the U.S. invaded Afghanistan, opium production surged again. This article, I could go on in here and all the nonsense. But the crazy thing is, again, this article makes it out. You know, if this was good investigative journalism, they'd say, this is fucked up. The United States is running drugs. But instead, it makes it out like we just got duped by the Afghanis and the U.S. military isn't profiting from it at all. And it's funny, another thing funny about this article is they actually tell you how to harvest opium. Lancing is laborious and delicate work. He moves one by one to each bulb, cradling in his left hand and drawing the blades across it in a diagonal stroke with his right. You can't press too deeply, or otherwise the bulb dries up after just one lancing. Blah, blah, blah. We're able to come back and lance each of them 4 or 5 times. The bulbs are lanced in the afternoon, and the milky sap seeps out through the night, thickening and oxidizing into a dark brown hue. In the mornings, they go from bulb to bulb, scraping off the resin with a flat blade, which they wipe into a tin can hanging around their neck. Okay? What? Hundreds of thousands of people taking part in the largest opium harvest in Afghanistan's history, with a record 224,000 hectares under cultivation this year. That's about 750,000 acres. Or no, 600,000 acres. It's huge. And after you finish reading about all the opium, what's Rolling Stone do? They give you an ad for the Noir by Indica portable vaporizer. Temptation lives in the shadows. Experience the darkness. The Indica portable vaporizer. You know, you can smoke opium out of a vaporizer too. So It kind of looks to me with like the purple hues here and the purple light on top of the vaporizer. I think they're kind of promoting the vaporizer as a great way to get your opium or heroin fix. So there you go. Rolling Stone gets you reading up on the opium trade, and then they try to sell you a vaporizer that you can use to smoke your drugs. I'm not opposed to smoking drugs, but I am opposed to the mainstream media. This I'm not even going to touch. It's just crap. They call this girl punk rock, you know. Punk was killed intentionally by the mainstream long ago. They're selling you overpriced tequilas. They're selling you Starbucks. That's your Rolling Stone, folks. I think it's important to make note of this because a lot of people think this is cool. A lot of people think, hey, Rolling Stone, hip, trendy, teaches me what's cool, what's not cool. But actually, it's blatantly misinforming people. So, there you have it. If you're interested in how the mainstream, how the corporatists, the techno-fascists have, what's the word, taken over and shut down, you know, social movements, authentic musical genres, whether it's punk or hip-hop or even classic rock. I'm going to put a link below to a really interesting article on a site called Dave's World. It's called the Laurel Canyon Gang. It's like a 20-part series, and it talks about how the folk music that was really a strong avenue for the anti-war movement in the 1960s was co-opted and taken over by Hollywood, and how a lot of the bands that are currently, you know, like the Doors, unfortunately, Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young, the Mamas and the Papas, a lot of these bands that people see as being the hallmarks of the 1960s were actually put into place to take the public's awareness away from real protest music and from real social action, you know, artists truly working for change at that time. So there you have it, folks. You know, keep your guard up. Be critical of everything you read. Be critical of this video as you're watching it, because I very well could be full of shit. But if you're still watching, you probably think that I'm making a little bit of sense. Y'all take care. One love. Peace.